Hello, welcome back to Matt and Sheryl's Gen Excellent playlist. I'm Matt.
I'm Sheryl.
We're in the 1980s.
Well, we went into the 1980s last week, if you recall, but we've just barely got in there.
It felt like 1989 the last time we actually spoke, you and I.
know, it's true.
Stupid life getting in the way of
Yeah.
podcasts and everything like that.
This is so much more fun than life.
I know. Well, we are now in the decade of the 80s, which, for the theme of our show, our podcast, our playlist, clearly a lot of our peers are still very fixated on the decade of the 80s. So now we're starting to get into that sweet spot, getting to more songs that people remember more fondly and are more meaningful to them. People that weren't playing records as a 2-year-old like I was back in 1972. So this is our second 80s episode. Our last one, we talked about Funky Town, a worldwide hit from Lip Sync, a one-hit wonder, and Paul McCartney's coming up. How many McCartney songs is that now? 4? 5? How many we got on there?
I don't know. I know I've done at least 3 or 4, and I keep thinking that there can't be more, can there? But I think I'm at the end now. I do not see that there's going to be any other Paul McCartney songs.
We had Jet. We had Silly Love Songs. We had With a Little Luck, and Coming Up. Is that all of them? 4.
Yeah. That's the most of any other artists on the playlist, though. We don't have any other artists where we have multiple songs like that.
So you're not anticipating Ebony and Ivory down the line, or hey, that's a great song. What are you laughing at? Say, or Give My Regards to Broad Street.
When Give My Regards to Broad Street came out, I was at the height of my Paul McCartney love, and I loved it. I thought it was great because seeing Paul on the big screen, and there's so much, all the music in it is great, really, because it's old songs.
So you're talking about the movie, not the video.
Actual
yeah,
movie.
right,
yeah, and there's old Beatles songs, but there's also old solo songs that he re-recorded for the movie. And I think No More Lonely Nights is a really good single.
Yeah.
The movie is just ridiculous, but it's very, I was so entertained. I remember my mom had to drive me up to downtown Seattle to see it at the UA theater because it wasn't playing anywhere else. It was one of those movies that lasted like a week in the theaters, which meant we got to see it in this really big theater though, with great sound system. And it was very exciting.
We actually did that. Neil Young released a documentary recently about the making of Harvest, and it was only available for one night in the theater. So it played in Northwest Portland. Actually, all 3 of us, my wife Julia, son Cooper, and I went and watched it. And actually, even Cooper kind of enjoyed himself watching that movie, the kid that doesn't really get into music at all.
Has it come out on DVD? Because I haven't paid attention. I want to see it, but I don't know if it's out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure if it's not more widely available now, it will be at some point. Maybe
I could check my local silver platters and see if they carry it.
Well, you should know that. Right?
I don't pay attention.
Speaking of Neil, my buddy Mike Shacker, who is our top engineer on Hillsborough Hops broadcasts and a longtime iHeartMedia employee here in Portland. He's like my ticket source. He got us tickets to Neil. We went and saw Neil Young at the I'm not sure. I think it's called the RV In Style something amphitheater.
Like an outdoor amphitheater?
Right. Yeah. Most of it's covered, but yeah, it's an outdoor amphitheater. It's near the Clark County Fairgrounds, just north of Vancouver. This is his first tour since before the pandemic. He's playing solo, so just him. No Crazy Horse, no Promise of the Real. And he's playing a lot of obscure stuff. Now, when I say obscure to me, my wife Julia is a Neil Young fan, but she got into him in college kind of via the Harvest Moon album. So, in her collection when we met, she had that, and she had his album with Pearl Jam, Mirror Ball, and the Sleeps with Angels album, I think 94 when that came out.
Yeah. So later half career.
Yeah, kind of mid-90s. Yeah. Mid-90s Neil. And I'm not familiar with those albums. I don't know those albums.
I only know Harvest Moon because that came out when I was working at record stores or maybe at Silver Platters, but I don't really know anything after that.
Yeah. So he's picked a bunch of obscure songs off these albums that are in his set. An occasional familiar favorite in there. He played Heart of Gold and he played Actually played Vampire Blues. That was really cool.
Cool. Yeah.
That definitely was a nice little bonus for the big Neil Young fans there. But I think he played a song off Trans. It's just him on. Yeah,
we're going to be talking about that in 1982.
Yes, I guess we are. But it was great. It was really good. Even all these songs I didn't know that well, they came off well. He's still such a great live performer.
I've seen him live 3 times. Well, once it was with The Restless, and then once with Crazy Horse, and then once solo at the Gorge. Sits down with a big organ. Well, maybe it was a piano actually, but surrounded by guitars. And he just kept moving from guitar to guitar. And that was amazing. But I saw him in 1989, and it was right after he wrote Rockin' the Free World. He wrote it in Seattle. So it was the first time it had ever been performed. And I remember, very distinctly remember just getting goosebumps during that line. That's one more kid, never gonna get to go to school, never get to grow up, never get to be cool. It was just incredible. And I mean, I'd never heard the song before. And you know what it's like when bands play oh, this is going to be our new single and you're like, yeah, whatever. I've never heard it. It doesn't really, but that totally, completely blew me away.
It just kind of occurred to me when you talked about hearing that song the first time and the timing of it when that came out, the Freedom album in 1989, and the fact that he was in Seattle when he wrote it, and the emerging Seattle rock scene that was just starting to become a thing at that time.
Yeah.
In the late 80s. I mean, this is 2 years before Nirvana broke nationally. Well before Smells Like Teen Spirit came out. There was no Pearl Jam at this point. I don't even think there was a Mookie Blaylock at this point, which was the band that predated Pearl Jam. So I think if not for that song, and he had that incendiary performance on Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
With Crazy Horse. One of the great live music performances on that show.
Mm-hmm.
And Neil Young really is one of the great live performers.
Yeah.
Whether or not you like his voice, and his voice is not for everyone. It's not what one would traditionally consider a good voice. He is a great, great singer. There's a difference between having a good voice and being a good singer. When you hear him live, he always hits the notes. He's never off key, even at this advanced age.
Oh,
rarely.
Yeah.
Does he?
And he actually sings in a pretty high register too. It's very hard to sing his songs like he sings them.
But that song, the arrangement, the rock and feel to it, the timing of when that came out, this whole notion of Neil Young as the godfather of grunge, just as that Seattle music was becoming, I don't think that happens without that song.
I agree.
I don't think he gets that title. I don't know that his career has the same wallop that it continues to have to this day without just the timing of that song when that came out.
It was kind of a second version of Hey, Hey, My. Like how they did the acoustic and the electric version, because they do the same thing with that song too. And that song, is also another one that I think put him kind of on the map in that way with kind of like punk and that whole, talking about Johnny Rotten in the song. Yeah. And so it just makes sense as kind of a natural progression. But no, I agree. I didn't realize at the time that I was kind of witnessing history in that way too, because I didn't know that the song was written until later when I read the story about how the song was written.
But not only do a lot of these Seattle rock bands from that era draw influence from him musically, but sartorially as well with the plaid shirts. I mean, that was That's what Neil was rocking back in the early 70s, man.
I mean, people here were rocking that because we're cold. We're always cold here, so that's why we wear flannel. But it became a fashion statement too at the same time. And I mean, he's been rocking the flannels for years.
Yeah, but I'm so grateful to Shaq for getting us those tickets, because both Julie and I are huge fans, and neither of us had ever seen him live. And even though he's still a vital live performer, he's still cranking out album after album every year. Yeah, you never know. I mean, at that age, in that lifestyle, it could end anytime. I think this is the point where we need to transition back to our first song for 1980. And the ball's going to be in your court, because we've chosen 2 songs today. Now to preface this, so far on our trek through the 70s and starting in the 1980s, we've hewn pretty closely to hit songs, top 40 songs.
Yeah.
Now we're starting to get off into the weeds a little bit. So our first song that we're going to talk about was a top 40 song.
Yeah.
The only one for this artist, I believe. His biggest hit as a solo. Well, I guess he had a couple others.
He had a couple others that were top 40 hits.
Scraped the top 40, but didn't have the same widespread.
Didn't have the same impact.
Yeah. We're talking about Donnie Iris. The song is Leah. And then the song I'm going to choose for this episode is about as obscure as you can get for a lot of folks. This was a band that had absolutely zero recognition in the United States at the time. Their stuff wasn't released here. And in Britain, it was barely released on indie labels and ignored and not well reviewed at the time and only appreciated later. The band is called the Soft Boys, and the song that I'm choosing from their incredible 1980 LP called Underwater Moonlight is called Queen of Eyes. But I want to start with Aaliyah because Donnie Iris is of the same generation as Neil Young, Paul McCartney. Donnie Iris is now 80 years old. So in 1980, Donnie Iris was pretty long in the tooth to be chasing pop dreams. He was in his late 30s and kind of got caught in the new wave surge, although it's hard to classify his music. It's hard to classify his music, period. He's got his foot in a lot of different camps, but I think a lot of people perceive this song, Aaliyah, maybe because of the video that accompanied it too, his look in the video, and they kind of perceive this as being part of the new wave of the time. But Donnie Iris was like, 38 years old when this song came out? So he's of a completely different generation.
He started making records in the in the 60s and was in a band called the Jaggers, not Mick Jaggers, but with the Z at the end. And they actually had a number 2 hit with The Rapper in 1970.
Now, got to explain about Jaggers, too. Very important thing about Donnie Iris is he is very, very identified with a particular region of this country. He's from the Pittsburgh area, Elwood City, suburb of Pittsburgh. And if you know anything about Pittsburgh, if you've ever visited Pittsburgh, you know they've kind of got their own lingo there. There's a lot of slang terms that are endemic to that area and a style of speaking. They call it Pittsburghese or Pittsburgh English. And a jagger, we've heard the expression jag off. That's kind of endemic to that area too. Joe Pesci says that in Goodfellas a lot. It's just kind of like a fool or a jerk, a jag off. A jagger bush is like a blackberry bush. It's like a bush with stickers. So they call them they call the thorns. They call them jaggers. So that's where the term comes from. So it's kind of a nod to the region from which they came, which is Pittsburgh, and then they kind of psychedelicized the name with the Z instead of the S at the end.
Okay, and he's very connected to the region, starting with the Jaggers.
Yes, beloved there.
Yeah. So anyway, they have a hit with The Rapper. It was a number 2 hit in 1970, which is one of those songs you'll find on a lot of like one-hit wonder collections and, like Billboard collections from the 70s.
Our sweet spot, those early 70s one-hit wonder songs.
Yes. So The Rapper, obviously this is 1970, so we're not talking about like rapping, like rap music. We're talking about a guy who's basically like a smooth talker and is hitting on women.
Yeah.
And so he was, like playing these clubs and stuff and watching these guys do this. And so he wrote a song about it.
But there's a slightly sinister feel to that, very slight kind of undertow to it. And a lot of people have poked fun at that by, the song could be The Raper.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
If you know what Donnie Iris looks like and you know of his kind of persona, he's definitely the guy that would be sitting there watching this happen. He wouldn't be the guy doing the rapping. There's a lot of songs that we talk about that do fall under that category of either don't listen too closely to the lyrics or just kind of like don't pay that much attention to them and let the music just, speak for itself. So that was his first hit. And then he actually went a long time before really having anything that dented the charts or anything like that. He joined the band Wild Cherry, which people will know from Play That Funky Music, White Boy.
Right. After that song was a hit, he joined the band.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, going back to his age, The Jaggers was not his first band. I mean, he'd been
Right.
playing around and gigging with different bands since the early 60s. So even when the Rapper comes out in 1970, he's in his late 20s. So he's, again, pretty old,
Yeah,
you
he's
know.
already been around for several years. When he joined Wild Cherry, they never had a hit after Play That Funky Music. They never did anything after that. But the thing that really came about from being in that band was connecting with Mark Avsek, who was the keyboardist. He actually joined around the same time. He also did not Play That Funky Music. They formed a writing partnership. The first song that they wrote and recorded actually was called Bring on the 80s, which I really wish that we could use as our theme song for
Oh my gosh.
season 2 of this
Can we
podcast.
just write a love letter to Donnie Iris and just
Yes, I think we should. The song just faded into obscurity. So he might appreciate somebody bringing it back into the limelight again. And,
and the sad thing about doing these podcasts, even if we had the artist's permission, we could record them saying, I
Yes.
give Matt and Sheryl permission. We could hold up
Yes.
a signed affidavit and
Yeah.
some stupid bot would still shut us down.
I know. We'd still get pulled off Spotify because of
Yeah.
it. Well, it has the perfect chorus for this season of Matt and Cheryl's Gen Excellent playlist. And it's actually kind of a fun song. It's a disco song, which came out after disco was a thing. And, it talks about the 80s, which disco was already passe at that point. So it just faded into obscurity until we bring it back again.
People were not ready to bring on the 80s.
They weren't ready to bring on the 80s, and they weren't ready to be excited about disco anymore. Like it was, it was a combination of two things that just wasn't the right timing.
We're going to bring on the 80s with some music that is inextricably tied to the 70s.
Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that didn't work, they were still writing songs together. And Mark Avsek actually, I think, was the one that came up with the concept of Leah, although it initially started out as an anti-war song. He wanted to have some kind of like chant in the background. And so he came up with Leah. And Donnie was like, hey, that's a girl's name. And I even know a girl named Leah. And she was like the girlfriend of someone in the Jaggers. And she was pretty hot or whatever, And so
I've seen her picture as an older woman. She was quite hot.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Her name was Leah Frankfurt.
Okay.
She dated the drummer of the Jaggers.
And this is one of those songs like My Sharona or Jenny 8675309.
Yeah. Good comparison.
That have a woman's name in the title. So changed it to Aaliyah, and then it became a love song, kind of. I guess you'd call it a love song. A song about a woman.
Hard to classify any of the songs I've heard by Donnie Iris at this point as quote-unquote love songs.
No, and like I said, he's one of those guys that you just have to kind of like not really pay that much attention to the lyrics. Which I think I've said several times on this podcast now.
Listen, it's about the music first. If the music's good enough, you just tune out the lyrics. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't a hit. I mean, it only hit number 29 on the charts, although it did become kind of the unofficial anthem of Pittsburgh and the whole like Western Pennsylvania area, along with the Rapper and his other song that was a hit called Love is Like a Rock. So Aaliyah is one of those songs that you hear on the radio. I remember hearing all through the 80s, the 90s. If people still listen to the radio, I'm guessing that it's probably still played. It's one of those songs that you hear it and you're like, I don't know who this is. You might think it's like Rick Springfield. Like it kind of sounds like Rick Springfield mixed with Night Ranger. So
that's good. That's good.
It has like a, I think that there's a familiarity to it where you feel like it's someone you probably know, but you can't quite place who it is. But really, it's not. It's Donnie Iris. And most people don't know who he is. And it's the only song that really made an impact. Now, you couldn't really call him a one-hit wonder because he did have other hits. He's kind of like along the lines of like Sniffin' the Tears and, other bands that we've even had on this podcast that maybe are two-hit wonders.
Yeah. Well, and he's in that interesting category where he had one big hit with a group and then one big hit solo. That's kind of an interesting side category in one hit wonderdom. Yeah.
That's true. He did. They actually were sued for copyright infringement after the song came out, and they ended up having to spend like $100,000 in legal fees to prove that wasn't true.
Oh.
It hurt their pocketbooks, but it also was really demoralizing for them, and it kind of just took the wind out of their sails. And actually, as a result of that, Mark Avsek, he became a lawyer and focuses on copyright law.
And Donnie Iris became a mortgage broker.
He did. Yes, Donnie Iris became a mortgage broker.
So the original Leah, who dated the Jaggers drummer, she'd been a high school student in 67, started following the band, dated the drummer in 68, moved to Florida. You know, she kind of lost touch with him. And then they had their big hit in 1970. And sometime in the 70s moved back. And then Donnie, you know, he's had these long fallow periods where nothing was happening musically. So he started on another career path as a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
And I think one of his employees came to realize that this gal that he or she was talking to was the daughter of the Leah that dated
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
That's how they rediscovered. That's how they rediscovered her.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. But I mean, the song wasn't written for her. It was a fluke.
No, it was just happened to be the name of someone. He was like, oh, I remember Aaliyah.
And it's a great record. It's a great record.
It is. It really is. And I love how it starts out with the drum fill. And then it just has power chords right off the bat.
Yeah.
But really, it's one of those songs where the best part is the chorus. And this is the case in so many of the songs that I've chosen. It's like the chorus is what makes the song. It's just that Aaliyah.
Yeah. He's a great vocalist.
Again.
Yeah.
I love that part.
He's a really good singer.
Yeah, he is.
He's kind of rooted in R&B, but he could sing in a number of styles. He uses a number of different kind of vocal tones on the record.
Mm-hmm.
I say on the record, on the album. But even on the song, the production is pretty elaborate. I mean, there's a lot going on in there, and there's so many layers of vocals on it, and he's just showing his range, particularly the coda. But even before, so the coda is one thing, but right off the top, you mentioned the drum fill to start. What really grabs me right away, the turn of the first two lines of the verse. So the first line goes, Leah, it's been a long, long time. You're such a sight. Now, I can imagine when you wrote it, you put a word that ends the sentence would be like girl. You're such a sight, girl. What they've done instead, they've taken the first word of the next verse, and used that as the last word on the first line of the. It's really clever. Leah, it's been a long, long time. You're such a sight. You're looking better than a body has a right to. Internal rhyme. It's not the end. It's not the end words that rhyme. It's really clever songwriting. Okay, so there's that. The bridge.
Mm-hmm.
The bridge is incredible with the
Yeah, with all the voices kind of coming from all over the place.
If I had Donnie right here, right now, I would ask him, dude, you were totally influenced by Show and Tell by Alan Wilson, right? That totally reminds me of the bridge of one of my favorite soul songs of the 70s. Then the coda, where he really shows his vocal chops with the screams.
And he does that on a couple of his songs, actually.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of a style that he repeats on other songs. Yeah, I love the cheesy keys in that part too. And then you have the cool guitar solo, which is actually a really cool solo. And
I mean, it is a band. It's Donnie Iris and the Cruisers, and it's a good band. It's a good band. It is a good band.
And actually, they're known as Donnie Iris and the Cruisers on the album, even though it's usually just credited to Donnie Iris. But yeah, I mean, they're a band. So you have the song, and then you have the video. And when you hear the song, you know, you can kind of maybe picture somebody like Rick Springfield or even like Bon Jovi, because Mark Avsek wrote one of the early Bon Jovi singles. And so it kind of has a similar feel.
Good looking rock star heartthrob type. That's totally what you're expecting, right?
That's what you're kind of expecting, because you're like, I know how to please you. I don't know how to love you. Like, it's kind of, it sounds more like a guy they have a very physical relationship, but they don't really have, you know, they can't really bring it to the next level. Yeah. And it's
a good line.
Yeah. So you think of it as not what you would expect when you see Donnie Iris. You know, MTV doesn't even start until 1981. So this song, I think, then starts to have more of a life once MTV hits and they start playing the video. And there's a reference to the video to the cover of the album, because he's wearing this yellow suit with a bow tie. And on the album, he's holding the guitar, and they show him in like various states of undressing or taking his shirt off anyway. And it cracks me up because in the video, during the guitar solo, first of all, he's playing that same guitar. Well, he's not really playing it. He's miming, because you can tell he's not miming to the solo. He's miming to the rhythm track. And then they show like parts of his clothing coming off during, as they cut to like, oh, now he's got like his tie off, and now he's got his jacket off, and now he's got his shirt off. And I was like, oh, wait, that's the cover of the album.
And Donnie is no pinup.
No.
Donnie's real name is Dominic Iraci. So he's this Italian guy from Pittsburgh. He's in his late 30s, he's a middle-aged dude. He's got this thick head of super curly hair.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Buddy Holly glasses. Kind of tall, slender guy.
Yeah.
So he's, I mean, it's kind of it's an interesting visual. It was very Buddy Holly looking. Visual image.
Yeah. And of course, Leah is gorgeous, and it's a funny just visual.
You mean the gal in the video, you mean?
The gal in the video who's playing Leah.
Yeah.
Leah.
It's funny that you mispronounced the name just now, because it never hit me till just now. When this song came out, this was around the time Empire Strikes Back came out.
Oh, yeah.
So Star Wars is massive. Princess Leia.
That's true.
People must have made a connection there, too.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. There should be like a Star Wars All Leia mashup somewhere where they play the, bits of the movie with the song.
How has Weird Al Yankovic not done a parody with Princess Leia?
Yes, that would make so much sense.
Maybe he has. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I think he's missing out if he hasn't.
So I'm really glad that you picked this track, because I don't know that I would have thought to pick it, but it's a classic. It's a great record. Yeah.
It's been one of my favorite radio songs. It's one of those songs that you would sit there and wait for it to play so you could record it on cassette. Because you probably didn't have the album in the 80s. You didn't have, you knew it was a song you heard often enough, and you liked it, and you were excited when it came on, and you wanted to make sure that you could have it. And so that would mean recording it from the radio. And for me, and he had a couple other hits after that. Like I said, he had Love Is Like a Rock, hit 37. He had a song that was in the couple more that were in the top 40. In 1983, he had a song called Do You Compute, which is really cool. I really like this song. And it's so perfect, 1983. The song and the video, where he's using an Atari 1200 XL computer. And in the video, he gets like trapped in the computer like Tron. And I was like, oh my God, I love this so much. But that was really the last hit he had. And then he just kind of became a regional. At that point, I would say he was now a regional favorite. Yeah. And he tours with like REO Speedwagon and Foreigner, Loverboy, with package deals like that, 80s bands. And
he's like Mr. Pittsburgh. He sings the national anthem at all these sporting events in the area, and tours Western PA and Northeast Ohio, has across this whole period of time from the late 70s to now.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah. He did get a recent cancer diagnosis, so he's canceled some shows.
Yeah.
I think from what we've heard, the prognosis is pretty good, but he's an 80-year-old man. But that being said, do yourself a favor. Get on YouTube, and there is a recent show on there. It's his 80th birthday concert. So it's from 2020. It's from earlier 2023 in the spring, or like late winter.
Yeah.
I don't know what the venue is. Somewhere in the Pittsburgh area, somewhere Western PA, Northeastern Ohio. And he's playing Leah. So I start to watch this video, and I'm like, oh, yeah, they've totally changed the arrangement because he's an old man and he can't hit the it all
starts out really slow, doesn't it?
Slow and dirgy. And it's kind of interesting, but it's kind of like, it doesn't have the energy. And then, just when you think that that's it, they kick in to the original arrangement, and it's almost like they play the full song twice, or at least the beginning part twice.
Yeah.
So it starts off slow and dirgy, then they kick in, and then it's like, he's still Donnie. He's 80 years old. He's still Donnie Iris right to the end. And I mean, through the whole coda with all the screams, he freaking nails it. Nails it. And he's still got this full head of hair, the curly hair. He's wearing these jeans with the knees ripped out, and he's doing the coda screams. He's down on his freaking knees on the stage, and he's hitting all these screams.
He's feeling it.
80 years old. And I was just like, no wonder that he is such an icon in that area.
Yeah. And that song will live on. I think that song will continue to live on.
Yeah.
Because it's such a great song. It really is. It's like a perfect single.
I agree. Just a great record. Excellent vocal, clever lyric, beautiful production. Good call. Good choice. Now, time to talk about a song that nobody knows. Okay. So, Robyn Hitchcock is like one of the ultimate cult artists. Is a British musician, incredibly prolific, still constantly touring. He's the definition of troubadour. He is always touring, always playing shows. His base of operations has changed countless times over the years. He's a London native, but he's made his home in the U.S. for quite a long time now. Seattle was his home base for quite a while. He's got very close relationships with a lot of well-known Seattle musicians. He's lived in Nashville. He's lived in San Francisco. So he dates back to the punk era. He first started recording in 1977. First started playing in bands a few years before that. And he was a little older, too, for somebody who's just starting their recording career. Interesting cat, Robyn Hitchcock. He's British, middle-class British, public school boy. So, again, we've talked about this a number of times. Public school in Britain is like private school here. Bohemian family. His father was a playwright, screenwriter, artist named Raymond Hitchcock. Grew up in London, went to public school, and then I think Marlborough College is where he went to college. And when he first started making it as a musician, he was coming out of Cambridge in England, which is where Oxford and Cambridge is, these institutes of higher learning. In 1977, the first recording with his name on it, the band was called the Soft Boys, formerly called Dennis and the Experts. They had a couple of different names. They released an EP called Wading Through a Ventilator. This is 1977, so punk ground zero, London, England, 1977. It's a low-budget independent recording, but he's playing music that just doesn't really jive with the times, although there is stuff on that Wading Through a Ventilator album that's just ferocious. I mean, the actual title track, and then there's two versions of the title track, Wading Through a Ventilator, and then one with different lyrics called Verna Cole, You're a Headbanger. And it's almost hardcore. I mean, it's just taken at this furious pace. But the rest of it, it's kind of drawing on older music, like 60s psychedelic sounds, but with this skewed, surreal mind writing the lyrics. So the Soft Boys, Alan Davies is the guitarist on that first EP, and then they bring in a guy named Kimberly Rew, R-E-W. All these guys, middle class, come from well-off, comfortable family backgrounds, college-educated guys. So Robyn Hitchcock, now joined by Kimberly Rew. So you got it's a dual lead guitar situation up front. Andy Metcalf is the bassist. Morris Windsor the drummer. Excellent rhythm section. So they get signed to a label called Radar Records, which was a short-lived label. Andrew Lauder was the head of the label. Their main artist was Elvis Costello. So on the same label as Elvis Costello and a couple other known acts. They start recording. I mean, Hitchcock is just constantly creating. He's really an ultimate artist. I mean, he's not just a songwriter. He's a painter as well. He writes poetry and short stories. He's just constantly creating. Striking looking man, too. Tall, very handsome guy, kind of slender, handsome, big-nosed guy. Somewhat like myself.
Like you.
Right? No, at least part of it. And he's odd guy. Guy. Just gets really skewed, surreal, take on songwriting in the world.
He lives in a dreamland,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's drawing heavily on a few different influences. Chief among them, Bob Dylan, particularly his mid-'60s rock stuff. The early Pink Floyd, and Syd Barrett was the original lead vocalist and singer of Pink Floyd. If you're not a hardcore or even, a semi-hardcore music fan, you may not be aware of this iteration of Pink Floyd, which is very different from the Pink Floyd most people know from the 70s. The Beatles, particularly John Lennon, and the Byrds is also a big influence. So he's drawing all these 60s influence during a time when punk rock is just kind of shoving all that in the bin, and so he's totally out of step with the times and the fashion of the times. Not only the style of music, the influence. Now, that's not to say that there weren't a lot of really good new wave bands that were drawing influence from these sources, but they were disguising it. They weren't playing in the same style.
Yeah, it was coming across more as new wave or power pop.
Yeah.
but it didn't quite have as much of a throwback feel as what
Right.
Robyn was doing.
Right, exactly. So even his dress sense is drawn from a different era. I mean, you see a lot of there's sadly precious little footage of the Soft Boys in their prime, very little. But you see pictures of them on stage and on the albums and in the albums, and he's basically he's taken his style cues from mid-60s Bob Dylan. So he's like got the black leather jacket and the scarf, you know. Later on, he's wearing like the check suit jacket like Bob Dylan was wearing at the legendary 66 concert. Looked pretty sharp, in my opinion. So they record tracks for this album on Radar that goes nowhere. Basically one single gets released and it totally flops. The song is called I Want to Be, it's in parentheses, I Want to Be, in parentheses, Angle Poise Lamp. And I'd have to look up what an angle poise lamp is. Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool song, but it's just like, what? What is he on about? And then Fat Man's Son is the B-side. That goes nowhere. Album comes to nothing. They've recorded all these songs that don't get released. They're still recording throughout different studios into 1979. Now, 79, their first actual album comes out. It's called A Can of Bees. And it's got this garish, bright orange cover with like this kind of cheesy animation of somebody dumping bees out of a can. The can says Old English Bees.
It looks like something somebody made on their new Macintosh computer in 1980. Yeah.
Right. Bright orange.
It doesn't look very professional.
No, it's pretty cheap looking. It's very independent. It's on the label's called Two Crabs. It's basically self-released. There's a lot of really great stuff on there, but it's erratic. It's inconsistent. There's some incredible songs on there. And the band is just ferociously talented. It's just a really good rhythm section of Metcalf and Wentz. They're able to play in different styles. And then you've got the two lead guitars up front with Robyn Hitchcock and Kimberly Rue. So the reason that we even talk about this band today is they had a tremendous influence on a lot of underground rock in the 1980s. And some very big names drew influence and sung their praises, chief among them REM.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when REM first started taking off, a lot of people made Byrds references. And Peter Buck was always quick to say, we were way more influenced by the Soft Boys than the Byrds. And people were like, the what? The Soft Boys? What the hell is that? But these records aren't even getting released in the United States, and they're barely getting released in England. I mean, nobody's buying them. What little press attention they got was almost entirely negative, just because they were not what was hip and happening at the time. They were yesterday's news, playing in this kind of antiquated style.
And really, in 1980, 60s music and, anything Beatle-like, that was like the lowest popularity for the Beatles.
Yeah.
Their popularity waned more than any other time. And I think a lot of the music from that era, it was like nobody wanted anything to do with that.
Nope. So they're drawing on these 60 sources, but there's this edge to them and this energy that is definitely drawing from punk new wave of the era. And it is not polished. I mean, it's a pretty lo-fi sound.
Yeah, more like the Stooges.
Right. It is loud. And you've got these two dueling guitars up front with Robyn Hitchcock and Kimberly Rue, but they're not playing power chords. They're not playing with a lot of effects and distortion. The effect they're playing with is cranking the amps up to 11, both of them. So it's ringing guitars. I mean, it's more in line with what you'd hear on Byrds records, with a lot of arpeggiated chords.
Jangly guitars, but super loud. And two of them, yeah, right. Yeah.
And two of them battling one another. When I got into the band, I discovered Robyn Hitchcock by accident at Bumbershoot, Labor Day weekend before my sophomore year of college. I went to Bumbershoot to see Camper Van Beethoven, big college rock band of the era. They had been signed to a major label. They're kind of toward the end of their run of this. I think Our Beloved Revolutionary Sweetheart was the album that was out at the time. I wasn't super familiar with their music, but I was curious about them, and I knew, I'd heard a little bit, and I liked what I heard. And I knew nothing about this guy, Robyn Hitchcock. So Robyn Hitchcock's here with his band, the Egyptians. They come out before Camper Van Beethoven, and he had me at hello because he comes out, and the very first thing that he says. Now, this is 1988? Okay. So, I mean, he'd been a recording musician for over a decade. He had a bunch of solo albums out, a few albums with the Egyptians at this point. Very accomplished musician, but still had a very low profile in the United States. Really just a cult artist and known among college students, mainly more than anything. Completely unknown to me at this point. He comes out. First thing he says, he gets up to the mic and goes, "Hello, we're Robyn Hitchcock and the Egyptians. We're here to perform for you until the band comes on." I thought that was just hysterical. I mean, it's just completely sardonic take, and just basically saying we should not be opening for this band.
But we know that you don't know who we are or care, and
Yeah,
you're waiting to see
exactly.
this band. Yeah.
And he had me right there immediately. And then they start playing, and I was completely taken with their music. So this is later. I don't want to talk too much about the Egyptians because Robyn's going to pop up again later on, I'm pretty sure. So the Egyptians, it's basically a reformulated Soft Boys, but they're a little more polished now and a little more sedate.
Plus, at that point, Kimberly Rue had already gone off with Katrina and the Waves.
Right. It's a single guitar now. Robyn's doing all the guitar in the Egyptians, no longer two guitars. So, yeah, basically he said he got sick of just the dueling amps. It just got to be too much. But, the Soft Boys in comparison were just unhinged.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very accomplished musicians. They all play well. And it's kind of like that, what people say about the band, tight but loose, kind of that feel. So, Can of Bees comes out, doesn't do anything, independently released. So now they're making their magnum opus the album's called Underwater Moonlight. It's a very low budget recording. Spaceward Studios in Cambridge, 16-track console. I think they spent £600 recording this album. So it is very, very low budget. They get a guy named Pat Collier to produce. Pat Collier was a member of a band called the Vibrators, which was part of the original punk scene in London. And Pat Collier deserves a lot of credit because what he was able to do with this album on £600, which is like about $1,000.
Yeah,
pretty remarkable. Now it's not a polished sound, but that's what plays into this album's favor. If they had more money to spend and they had made it polished, it wouldn't have had the influence and the lasting impact, and it wouldn't sound as timeless as it does now. It would be tied to an era. And a lot of the great music of the past is great because it's not falling into the trap of whatever was popular at the time, the production styles or the equipment that was popular at the time. I mean, these guys were so far out of left field compared to what was being recorded at the time.
Yeah, if you were going to connect it to an era, it'd be more of the 60s, but it would be like the garage bands of the 60s.
Right.
And I think all of the bands that sort of have that feel to them, you're right. They don't feel like they're tied to an era because it feels so DIY. It could happen anytime.
Yeah. I forgot to mention one other big influence on Robyn and the Soft Boys, and that's Captain Beefheart.
Yeah.
So he basically said, what he wanted out of the Soft Boys was basically to meld the Beatles and Captain Beefheart. So have these great songs, great melodies, but just have this off-kilter aspect to it, particularly rhythmically and in the lyrics. If you know anything about Captain Beefheart, I mean, it's a different kind of mind at work.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen any interviews with Robyn or seen him live in concert, it's an incredible mind at work that's just constantly on. It's constantly creating. You never know where it's going to go. Just a lot of extemporaneous improvisational patter from the stage. And a lot of his songs are composed that way, just on the spot, just lyrics that are just coming to his head.
It's like controlled chaos.
Yeah.
There's a song on Underwater Moonlight, Old Pervert, that sounds exactly like Captain Beefheart.
Yep, exact. That's the best example of the Captain Beefheart influence on this album. Is the off-kilter, unsettling rhythm of that. But it's a rhythm. It's a powerhouse. Morris Windsor is a powerhouse drummer, really good player. And then the bassist by this time is now Matthew Seligman, who was he'd played on sessions before, but he hadn't been featured as part of a band on a recorded album to this point. But he would go on to play with Thomas Dolby. He would play in, I think, with David Bowie. Really good bassist. And again, adapted at different styles. But the song I've chosen from this album is not the most popular song on the album. That song would probably be the first track, which is called I Want to Destroy You, which is probably the song, if anybody knows a Soft Boy song, it's probably that one. It's great. It's a 5-star record. Every song is killer on this record. That is probably the most punk-like song on the album, the song that kind of jives with the times the most.
It feels more Stooges to me, like it's 60s garage band punk.
Yeah. It's an anti-war diatribe with some very clever lyrics, and that's been anthologized more than any other Soft Boys song. And then they go from that to Kingdom of Love, which just has this groovy bass line to it.
Which is my favorite song on the album.
Yeah. And that song, that would stay in Robyn's set list for years and years. He probably still plays it on occasion. But Queen of Eyes is buried at the end of the album. It's like the second to last track before the title track. It was the last track on side 2. Queen of Eyes, to me, goes on that list of songs, and I'm going to make this list one of these days, make a playlist, perfect pop songs. And for me, a perfect pop song doesn't have to have trite lyrics. I appreciate people who are willing to do something a little different. And Robyn is definitely a little different.
I don't ever even try to understand what Robyn's talking about.
No.
And I don't care because it's still more interesting than what most people are singing about. So whether I get it or not, it doesn't really matter.
So this is, instead of a melding of Beatles and Beefheart, this is like 50% Beatles, 50% Byrds.
Yeah.
And it's just a perfect merger. And when I think of perfect pop songs, one of the top songs on that list for me is the Byrds' I'll Feel a Whole Lot Better, which is almost exactly 2 minutes long. Queen of Eyes, same. It's almost exactly 2 minutes long. Not a wasted note on here. Just incredibly melodic, catchy verse, chorus, beautiful harmonies, those ringing Byrds-like guitars.
So much jangling happening.
Yeah. Wonderful harmonies on the bridge. It's just a super song. You texted me. You said, that might be my 6th favorite song on this album.
Yeah.
I could understand that. And where they put it on the record is generally where you're going to put the weakest track, second to last on side 2.
Yeah.
But this is such a great album. It could easily be my album pick for the year. I think it's going to lose out slightly to another one. We'll save that for later. But the reason I wouldn't pick this for my album of the year, actually, this is their best record. I don't have any illusions otherwise.
Yeah.
But I think the Soft Boys record that I've always liked the most was one that came out after the fact. It's called Invisible Hits, came out in 1983. And it's a lot of stuff that was recorded kind of around the same time. He was just so prolific, and he continues to be. The guy's continued to release album after album after album. He is the ultimate troubadour, Robyn Hitchcock. But this Invisible Hits album has some incredible stuff on it. Some really edgy stuff, and then some goofy stuff, varying recording quality. Some of it's actually better recorded than, you could tell it's a low budget recording. It's very apparent when you listen to Underwater Moonlight. It's wonderfully played by the band. And, there's some interesting little psychedelic effects in there. They bring a sitar in on the 3rd track, Positive Vibrations. That's a song that's been growing in my esteem.
Mm-hmm.
That's
probably one that is above Queen of Eyes for me.
Yeah, that would have been one of my least favorite songs in the album years ago. But that one's growing in my esteem. I think my favorite song on the record is Queen of Eyes. But if you wanted to pick the best song on the album, I think you'd have to say Insanely Jealous. An incredible track. Really incredible.
That song does rank higher to me than Queen of Eyes, but Kingdom of Love, I think, is the best song on that album.
But just the fact that a song as great as Queen of Eyes could be 6th on your list.
That's my 6th favorite song on that album. And I'm not saying I don't like that song.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there's like 5 songs I like more than it. Yeah. So it is a great album. It's a 5-star album.
Yeah. Robyn Hitchcock is an incredibly talented songwriter and melodist, but the reason he's a cult concern rather than popular, and he had a brush with popularity around the time that I first discovered him. He's got signed to a major label, A&M Records, put out, I think, 3 records for A&M. And then even after that didn't happen, he got another major deal. He put out a record with Warner Brothers.
His popularity seemed like it kind of peaked at the late 80s when Balloon Man, Madonna of the Wasps, those were both songs that you would see on MTV quite a bit. And they were big in college radio.
And then, Perspix Island, and we saw him on
Mm-hmm.
tour, you and I and others, made a pilgrimage down to Portland at Roseland to see him there. Matthew Sweet, his opening act on that night. Well, that would change soon.
That's definitely going to come up for me in the 90s.
Power pop music, if you're a music fan, you just kind of scratch your head. I mean, there's been a few songs like My Sharona or songs like that break through and are big hits, but a lot of them just kind of stay in a cult arena. And it's hard to understand why, because it's like you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the thump and the drive of harder rock music along with the melody of classic pop music. And why that isn't more popular with more people, I've never been able to understand.
I think there's been times where there's kind of a resurgence of it because there was a time in the 90s where it kind of came back again, and in the 2000s, like with the Shins and like Jet, and I think that it'll pop up every now and again. There'll be a handful of bands that are popular of that style, but yeah, I don't really understand why it's not more consistently popular. I think with Robyn Hitchcock, the thing that keeps him on the fringe is the lyrics.
The weird lyrics.
He's just so out there.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, like, Captain Beefheart is out there for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes Robyn even goes a little further than that, which is hard to believe, but
the lyrics always stayed offbeat and off kilter throughout. But the Soft Boy songs, some of those lyrics, they verge on the creepy and sinister.
Yeah.
But, he's got this likable persona, somewhat likable persona. I could see where he's a little prickly. I mean, they say never meet your heroes. I would be reluctant to meet this guy. I don't think he suffers fools gladly. He's very smart, very intelligent guy. He's got this mind that's just constantly firing.
Probably also why he never really became popular, even when he was kind of like, bubbling up a little bit like on college radio, and that I don't think he was ever going to go any further than that. And I don't think he ever really had any desire to necessarily, because that just wasn't his personality. That wasn't him.
No, but purely from a musical standpoint, he had the chops, the ability to create popular music, but his persona was just never going to lie.
And he's one of those artists that you really need to see live to really appreciate him.
Yeah. I've seen him live at least a half dozen times. I mean, I've seen him live more than anybody else. And you're exactly right, because he's a great live performer. He's an excellent guitarist, for one. And he's just so unpredictable. I mean, he's got that super deep catalog, but he could play a goofy cover. He could make up a song on the spot. And then there's the stage pattern.
Yeah.
Which is just mind-blowing, the way this guy's mind works.
He's very entertaining.
Just comes up with all this crazy stuff off the top of his head. Incredible mind.
Yeah. I haven't seen Robyn in years, but I'm sure he's coming around Seattle, and I just don't know it.
I'm sorry to say I haven't kept up with his catalog.
When we did the end of the year episode, he had an album that came out in 2022, and that was one of the albums that I reviewed, and it's really good.
And I was Shufflemania?
Like, yeah, I mean, he's still making great music. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised, because there's nothing that I have listened to of his that I don't like. So it makes sense that he'd still be making great music, but it's still kind of like, wow, Robyn's still making great music.
And if you're wondering what is the connection between our two artists that we featured this week, Donnie Iris and Robyn Hitchcock, the Soft Boys, they're lifers, man. They are music lifers. Donnie Iris still down on his knees, screaming out the coda of Leah while battling cancer, for God's sakes. And Robyn Hitchcock on the he's like his hero, Bob Dylan. He's on the Never Ending Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Much credit to both those guys. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Matt and Sheryl's Gen Excellent Playlist. We are happy to be back and talking music again. Hopefully it won't be too long before we get our next one out there. I have no idea where we're going next. So we're building up our lists.
I don't know either. There's a whole world of 80s out there, 1980 out there for us.
Building up our lists. The playlist is growing, not exponentially, but we're adding 2 more songs to the list of songs we pick for each year. So we'll be choosing more songs from 1980 than 79 and more than 78 and so forth. There's always going to be at least 4 big hits on there. We've already covered 2 of those. Going a little further out with our 2 songs this week, Leah by Donnie Iris and the Cruisers and Queen of Eyes by the Soft Boys. Well, we appreciate you tuning in. This is Matt and Sheryl's Gen Excellent Playlist. I'm Matt.
I'm Sheryl.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.